Today we are going to make tomato cages. You can buy these remesh panels at most hardware stores. As I start to cut my panel, I count 7 squares off of each end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I should have 2 panels that are roughly the same size. And here we have both panels. One will have this end, one will have that. And so on this side, what I normally do is I bend them over around the other side of the panel, and on this one I just use some tie wire to tie the two of them together. This is a full sheet. It's called Remesh, and you can buy it at most home stores. It's used for reinforcing concrete. I've made quite a few of these before, and having had the greenhouse this spring, I was able to get a lot more starts to grow than I normally. I just would end up buying the number of starts that the at the home store for tomatoes or peppers that I would need, and now I could only buy as many as I needed. But now that since I'm growing them in my own greenhouse, I started more than I needed because I was not expecting them all to propagate, which I ended up with what I ended up with, and we ended up planting more than I had cages for. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting it on the side with the long bars up, just so it's easier to cut them. I'm using a large, I think, what, a 7-inch grinder. In any event, I'm using an abrasive cutter wheel on this one. I'd only recommend using something like this if you're familiar with metalworking. You might buy a pair of bolt cutters, Harbor Freight or something, and if you're uncomfortable using a big power tool. Okay, that should take care of all of the cutting that we need to do. This is why it's important for us to measure twice and cut once. You don't get to measure once and cut twice. Here is a panel which I didn't actually end up counting the squares, and I did an 8 and a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's because I had laid it down here before I went in the house to get the video making equipment, and I didn't think to count. So again, you might make fun of me for counting them each time, but it is important. So what I'm going to end up doing with this is, rather than throwing it out, I'll probably use this to trellis somewhere else maybe, and this is going to be a little bit small, but I'm going to end up using this one to go ahead and make another panel. So I will cut it so that they're all the same. I like uniformity. The idea behind this is to end up bending this into like a cylinder, but it's just a wireframe cylinder. And I like to put the horizontal members on the outside so that as you bend it, if these flex out and if the plant's pushing out, it's pushing against, it's all enclosed within the outer ring. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and set up the piece of wood on top. So I've got a piece of plywood here, 3/4 inch plywood. It's what, about 2 by 4, and I use it for a form board at one point, but I'm going to go ahead and use that on the bottom just so that I have something to press against, and I'm not pressing against the concrete. A little bit more forgiving. Then I'm going to grab a piece of 2 by 6, probably in about 4 feet long, in order to bend against. So now the challenge is to try to not get it too bent to where I'm making a 90-degree angle, but I'm bending it enough to form a circle. And again, we know a circle is basically some type of like an octagon or a triangle. You keep creating this more and more angled connections to an infinite point, and then you end up with a circle, essentially. What I'm trying to say is you can bend it a little bit, and even though it would seem to have a flat side, if you do it enough, it should appear like a circle. The trick is to do it in a way that isn't too much or too little. The nice thing is if you don't bend it enough, you can normally pull it together. Then it will, whereas if you bend it too much, it will end up, you'll have to pull it apart, which is a little more difficult than just tying it together, and it kind of holds itself apart. My kneeling. Doesn't go quickly this way, but it does work pretty well. And I'm just using the kneeling pad here. Most gardeners should have access to one of these. Looks like I got that one a little too much, so I did not bend it quite so much on the next one. Maybe like a polygon, many-sided thing. Many-sided geometrical shape. I might be doing it too much already. And I appreciate this might be more difficult if people don't have the hand strength. I suppose there are ways you could even do this with a pair of pliers if you pulled it just right. A pair of pliers and get down in here and do it with a pair of pliers rather than with your hand. Make sure that it's equidistant from the vertical pieces of bar. Once it gets to this point, a lot of times I'll just stand up and stand on it while I bend it. Kind of bend it in a little bit, stand on it. And then your toes, you can kind of, it's always good to wear good foot protection though. All right, let's see where we're at. That'll do nicely. I'm gonna go grab the tie wire. So it looks like I started out a little bit more, with a little bit more bend than I ended up with. So the thing you can do is just kind of work it around. It's like there's not as much there. Piece of tie wire. This is stainless steel. I've used rebar tie wire before too. Might do a double wrap because this is a little smaller stuff. Got this tie wire at Harbor Freight. too much one way. Let me try it with just one wrap to begin with. I like to pull it together and kind of pull away from it as you tighten it down too. One. You want to push it down so it doesn't have one that's sticking out more than the other. Here I'm using the one that's a little longer to kind of hold in the one that's shorter. You'll notice that these things get really rusty, and the panels do, but they seem like they don't break down very much because the wire is a lot bigger than other ones I've had. It'd be nice if they were stainless steel galvanized like the hog panels or cattle panels, but for the price you can't hardly beat them. And I did the last ones probably 6 years ago now, 5, 6 years ago now, and they're still working just fine. There's one. Cut off the extra, keep it short, and actually let me put a couple more twists on it just because. Try and keep people from cutting themselves on them, not having them out too long. Catching everybody. This first one up a little more so I can get the longer one on the outside here so everything's matched up. There it is. Cool. Rinse and repeat. All right. I did have the little tie wire things, which are a little nicer. The stainless steel wire is a little smaller gauge than I'm used to using, but I've been really impressed with this tie wire. I'm just tucking this one back in. Try and keep it less. I didn't realize that one. I probably should have started one on top and one on the bottom. So I'm doing a crisscross so that they don't slide down, at least through the top one. I don't know that. I'll just leave it. See in 2 or 3 years how it worked out. About if I put it on the top, it can potentially pull off. So I've got to do it. I just got to make it tight enough so it doesn't pull back. I don't know if you can see this really well, but I just cross them over, and then I basically start pulling and twisting. You can kind of bend it over like this, or you can pinch it. That way, just to kind of keep it from getting out where it'll come out and bite everyone if they're walking by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think I will put another one in the middle just so that they're all the same. Let's see if I can cut this off. It was helpful while it was there, but I think I might just use a little quick grip clamp on the next one rather than trying to fight it to get two. And there we have our first panel, our first cage. And what I'll often do is kind of look at it for irregularities. It's a little oblong. Just kind of, and I'll do this even, because they won't stay perfect even when you're growing stuff. The main thing is just to get the structure around the plant. So that's what the BTS tomato cage looks like. And it's 42 inches high. I'm not sure how big around it is. So it's about 13 inches, 12 inches ID, but it's oblong. So, and I don't like this. There's a little bit of a bend right here that I don't like. So I'm going to try to just knock that down a little bit. That. There you go. A little one there also. That's pretty circular. So then what I'll do in the garden is I just put a T-post or a little C-post in the ground. I got a little 60 inchers and some larger big T-posts for big fences, but I like the smaller ones, and then I just zip tie it a couple places, and that lasts a whole year, and we get a lot of tomatoes off of it. I've seen people have a little bit bigger ones. What I like about this one is they kind of trellis into it and hang off of it, and then the tomatoes are kind of held close to the plant. I've seen people stack them too before, but so yeah, that's a BTS Brian the Swede tomato cage, and I'll just keep making them till I run out of them. The reason that I chose this size is primarily just to get the most out of the panels so that you're cutting it in half. I'll go ahead and do the other style panel next and show a little bit of the differences that I have, because here you have two vertical pieces that you use to tie wire on. On the other ones, I just bend a loop and tie the loop back, and that holds half of the panels together just fine. So I'm going to do the next one, and then I'll probably just do the rest of them on fast forward, or just let you assume that I did the rest of them. The magic of editing. So here we have the panel with the pointy ends, the ones that don't have the vertical rod. It's just a horizontal rod. So I end up bending these back like this around the vertical bar when I get done. I recommend when again, we put the horizontal bars down, the loops essentially go down. Then I'm bending it like this so that the sharp ends aren't the ends that I'm constantly having bend into my body as I go along. And this is why I put the pointy ends down, because you put the pointy ends into your cab and or your shin bone, you'll know better. I'm gonna just bend these a little bit by hand. And bend it over. It doesn't need a whole lot, just enough to capture the, probably about an inch. Enough to capture the other panel. The other vertical, I guess I should say, the other side of the panel. And on the top and bottom, you'll want to make sure you put the one underneath the top wire. See me start closing these off. You just basically get it in there and pinch it shut. There we go. One more or less done. It should get easier as you get closer to the bottom. So I did those first 4 underneath that way. I think I'm going to do these on the top now, just because I'm going to have to switch this anyway. Try and keep them a similar length and direction. And I didn't get fired over enough to start. You want to get it at least past 90 degrees. Has to right angles so that it is more of a hook when you put it on. All right, so that is it. You can see it's not coming apart. I'm gonna call this the male version of the BTS Brian the Swede tomato cage. See it up close. See, it actually looks pretty nice, not too bad. There is a little bit of an oblong shape to it, so I'm just gonna a little time pushing on it a little bit. Look at it, and it's actually not too bad. And again, these things get bent in the field even, and or in the garden, and you'll just have to kind of show them who's boss and bend them as you deploy them. So this one, still a foot, roughly across. Some ways more than others, I'm sure, but big thing is just to get a place for the tomatoes to, or the pepper plants to not fall over, fall in, and kind of lay their branches as they vine up. Peppers not so much. I'm probably going to cut these in half for peppers. So half somewhere in the middle of 3.5 probably. Or 4.5. No, what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 1, 2, 3.5. Yeah. It's right there. 1, 2, 3.5. Good. 2 down, only 22 to go. I don't know. 12 to go, 10 to go. If I bought, yeah, I bought 12 halves and I broke one. So 24, 23, 21. It's gonna take forever.